India may have been a country on the ascendant, but in the space of one generation it has yielded almost unrecoverable ground to China. These are the words of T.N. Ninian, the chairman of Business Standard and former editor of the Economic Times and Business World. It is from his book, The Turn of the Tortoise, which is about how India got left behind while China zoomed past them like a bullet train on steroids. In this video, I will talk about how China has left India in the dust and the main reasons why. So what happened? They both started from a relatively level playing field. For example, they each had around the same $340 billion GDP in 1990. They both had and still have similar populations, and they both recently emerged from traumatic periods of their nation's histories. That being the end of the century of humiliation and civil war for China, and the end of British rule for India. Let me set the scene and take you back to 1989. Jack Welch, then chairman of General Electric, visited New Delhi and declared that India and China were the two great markets of the near future. The term Chindia became popular, especially in India, as a means to group the two behemoth nations together. But 20 years later, General Electric's China business had rocketed to become 4 times larger than its India business. China's GDP had grown to become 5 times larger than India's, and it still remains so today. Back then, the Chinese were in the same situation as today's Indians. They had a bad online image where people would make fun of them for defecating on streets, acting rude in restaurants or buffets and such other stuff. They would also lambast China for shoddy buildings and infrastructure and call them tofu bricks. The term made in China was an insult. So what did the Chinese do? The government made 5-year plans that prioritized hundreds of billions of dollars worth of investment in education and infrastructure and mobilized their massive workforce to become manufacturers. Sure, it was tough work, which many people would look down on, but it was a necessary act that propelled its economy. Now look at China, an industrial powerhouse that has the second largest economy in the world and manufactures over 30% of the world's goods. India, on the other hand, was left in the dust, and now they are playing catch-up. But when people point out the many flaws of India and Indian society, they cry racism and use deflection tactics. In my recent video covering the Bhopal Investment Summit, where Indians stormed the free lunch and caused chaos and danger, a few netizens commented that it was fake news and the video is actually of Bangladeshis. This is exactly what I'm talking about. The Chinese kept their heads down and worked 12-hour shifts 6 days a week, whereas Indian netizens spend 12 hours every day spamming online forums and Twitter about how great India is and how any negative representation of India must be fake news or racism. Now let's take a look at the cities and infrastructure differences between the two nations. Indian netizens love to bring up Mumbai when comparing Chinese and Indian cities as if it's the big brother who protects them from bullies. They say that certain parts of Mumbai are way better than these Chinese cities. But the problem is nobody cares about the mega-rich parts of one single city. Especially when we see the rest of your cities. Shoddy buildings, slums, exposed wires and roads with holes so big that you could hide a cow in them. 99% of Chinese cities are far superior to Indian cities in terms of hygiene, infrastructure, public transport, and economic output. Just search on Google Images a few random Tier 2 Chinese cities, and they will all look like futuristic tech cities with skyscrapers and well-maintained roads. But Indian cities, well, the less said the better. Another thing to compare is the state of high-speed rail. Both countries are massive in terms of land and population, so it makes sense to connect each region via high-speed rail. Currently, China has almost 30,000 miles of high-speed rail network. India actually has 43,000 miles. Oh, you thought I was talking about high-speed rail? No, don't be silly. I was talking about old, rusty, poorly maintained, overfilled trains and tracks that can date back to the British Empire. Here's a fun fact. The superfast train from Beijing to Shanghai takes less than 5 hours. and the normal train takes 10 hours. In contrast, Indian Railways' premier super-fast Rajdhani Express from Delhi to Mumbai, which is a comparable distance, takes the same 16 hours that it did 45 years ago, when the service was launched. Good job, India. It's been nearly 70 years since independence, yet you've hardly replaced the old British infrastructure. So, as someone who wishes to see a thriving India, maybe I shouldn't comment at all on the current state of things. Then angry Indian netizens won't feel the need to flood the internet with spam and comments about Superpower India, Great Bharat Empire and Modi ji. But I have a feeling that won't stop. So, a quick message to these angry Indian netizens. Stop talking and yapping about your superpower dream and start doing it. Maybe then you won't be a laughingstock. Please like, comment and subscribe. Rant over. Thanks for watching.